Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co-founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this is Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. This episode is brought to you by Amplified Marketing Group. They specialize in affordable mobile solutions. They will get you noticed and help you retain customers. Check them out at yourphoneguy.com. So I want to share a story with you today. Actually, it's my story. My late husband had a liver disease for more than 20 years, and he always had a saying, and that was, you are healthy until you're not. You know, to look at Michael when he was alive, you would never know that he was sick. He truly looked like Mr. Clean. He was this big, burly dude with this huge smile and a bald head and a big gold earring. And I remember people's look on their faces when I would tell them that he was sick and that he had struggled for 20 years with this liver disease. And as sick as he got, his comment to me was always, I'm the luckiest guy walking. He would see somebody in a wheelchair or an older gentleman missing a limb, and he always looked at himself being lucky. For 20 years, we were in and out of the hospital, and I stood by his side for every doctor visit, every procedure, and every hospital stay. We were in and out. I can't tell you in the 20 years how many hospital stays there were, but it was probably close to 100. It seemed like it was constant. There was always something that had come up. And the last 18 months of his life, they were very stressful. He'd spent a month in the hospital that then led to him being airlifted to a much larger hospital about 3 hours away from our home, to him finally losing his battle, me losing him to septic shock. But, you know, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change the time. I'm so grateful for the time that I had with Michael. And I was very lucky to love such an incredible man and to be loved by someone that was so strong and so sincere. And I've been lucky to remain healthy myself through our entire married life. I was never the one. I would end up with a cold or maybe a flu here and there, but I'd only been in the hospital twice, once for a weird hernia surgery when I was in high school, and then 18 years ago when I had our son. That was the only experience that I had ever had on being in the hospital bed. All the other times I was in the hospital, but I was there to support and advocate for Mike. And all this changed about 18 months ago. Well, actually 6 months ago, in October. And that's the story that I want to share with you today. I've been pretty quiet about my journey, but I decided that it was time to share my story with my listeners in hopes that this will empower you to take action in your own health. So let me start by saying that I had symptoms for several years, but had chose to ignore them. I would say that I had symptoms for about 5 years. I would write them off as it was something that I had ate, or that my body had had a tough time taking in carbs like bread and pasta, but I just discounted it as just that. There's no way. I was too healthy for there to be anything wrong. My story begins with a screening that was offered by my insurance company. They sent out an email and a letter, and they said that you qualify for this free health screening. And it was nothing more than having a nurse come to the house, and she checked my eyes, checked my weight, took a list of medications, and that was it. Well, I'm not on any medications. I do have a little extra weight that I'm working on getting off. And my blood pressure was fine. Everything was fine. And when she left, she said, well, we have this colon screening that we'd like for you to take. And so they left me the paperwork in the envelope and showed me how to take the sample. And you take the sample and you send it into a company out west somewhere. So I did all of that, sent the envelope away, never gave it another thought, went and lived my normal life. About 2 weeks after sending that sample out, I got a call from that company that had monitored that screening, and they said, you have some abnormal cells in your sample. You need to get a hold of your doctor. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, we just need to have it checked out. You just need to have it checked out. Don't let it go. And I said, okay, no problem. I will do that. Now, mind you, at this point in time, I was 52 and should have had a colonoscopy when I was 50. However, life happened when I was 50, and that's when Michael was so sick. And then I lost Michael, and my attention turned toward our son that was 15 years old at the time. And so I put myself on the back burner. Getting a colonoscopy wasn't anything that was on my radar at all until they called and said, you probably need to have a colonoscopy. So I called my doctor. And I went in for a visit scheduled with my doctor. She agreed. She thought that she said, I'm sure it's nothing. You know, those screening things, they don't really show anything. But let's go in and get a colonoscopy done. So I did schedule the appointment with the doctor, got the colonoscopy all scheduled. The prep for the colonoscopy was not bad. Everybody says that colonoscopy prep is horrible. You know what? I took the advice of a friend, and I ate really light the day before my prep started. And I will tell you what, that really helped. I didn't go out and act like it was my last supper where I was eating a cheeseburger and pizza. And I think I had like soup and toast. And so I didn't find that the prep was horrible. And that's what people say, right? The prep for your colonoscopy is worse than actually the colonoscopy itself. So I went ahead. My sister took me to the colonoscopy, and I wasn't nervous. I just thought, well, this is just something that we need to get addressed, and we need to figure out what's happening. If something, I just need to have it. Basically, what I went in for was to have the colonoscopy was for them to tell me everything was fine. I really went in with that mindset. Everything is fine. It was just time for me to get the colonoscopy. So we went in. And had the colonoscopy done, and everything wasn't fine. The doctor that performed the colonoscopy, while they were in there, they discovered that I happened to have a mass on my colon, and it was something that could not be removed during the colonoscopy. So they said I needed to see a surgeon. Again, the whole time the doctor's reassuring me, I'm sure that this is nothing, but he kept saying, I'm so glad that you came in when you did. I'm so glad that you didn't wait. I'm so glad that we found this now and not 5 years from now, because it would have been a different story. So I believe that everything was fine. Everybody's heard of benign masses. Not everything is positive for cancer. It may have just been something that was non-malignant, and we would be okay. So the next thing I know, that was on a Wednesday that I had my colonoscopy. On Thursday, they scheduled me for a CAT scan. On Friday, I met with the surgeon. So I thought, man, that's really quick. But, the work that I do is with women with cancer. So I thought, I'm pretty known in our community, and that's what I chalked it up to. Boy, they're taking good care of me because of the women that I take care of. And so when we went in and talked to the surgeon, he agreed. He agreed that whatever this mass was, that it needed to come out and that we needed to schedule surgery. And there was a lymph node that was in question too, but he could not tell me anything about what it was until he actually got in and did the surgery. Now, while they did the colonoscopy, they did take a couple of biopsies as well, so that once we had the surgery done, that would give the surgeon a little bit more of a heads up to know what he was dealing with. So we went ahead. I sat down with the scheduling person, and we walked through getting the surgery scheduled for 2 weeks later. So I sat there stunned, and I wasn't sure what to think of this because I had been so healthy besides some of these minor occurrences, as I thought that they were minor. And as I sat there in the doctor's office, one of my biggest fears had been, well, here it was, I was Michael's caregiver for 20 years. I was the one that took care of him. I was the one that stood by his side. I was the one that advocated him for more than 20 years. That was my job. That's what you do. You take those vows, right? For better, for worse, in sickness and in health. And in sickness, I felt like I had lived up. And now all of a sudden I'm a widow faced with a medical situation, and I no longer have my person there to care for me. And that was always one of my biggest fears right after he died. What happens if something happens to me? Well, I guess that was the time, and I had to find out. So we had to have the surgery done. So the surgery was scheduled for November, and things moved pretty quickly. Now it was telling my son. My son was 17 at the time that all of this came about. And how do you tell your son, who has already lost one parent, that a parent, your remaining parent, that there's a mass on the colon and that they have to do some surgery and they have to figure it out? And I am a firm believer, and keep the main thing, right? If you make a big deal, it's a big deal. And when Mike and I raised Seth from the time he was a small child, that's exactly what we said. If you make it a big deal, it's a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. Matter of fact, no emotion around it, right? It's just they found a mass on my colon and I have to have surgery. End of story. At that point in time, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know whether it was not benign. I didn't know if it was a cyst. I didn't know if it was malignant. I didn't know anything. I wasn't being dishonest. I was giving him the exact information that I had. There's a mass in my colon and they have to take it out, and here's where surgery is scheduled. So I didn't tell him by myself. I had my sister and her husband. They were with me. And so we were able to kind of walk through this. My son got quiet and then just asked if he could go to his room to have a few minutes. And I think he was just kind of processing it all. It worked out really well that he was to be at, I was having surgery on a Thursday, and Friday he was at a Catholic youth retreat. And so I alerted the leaders of that retreat, the adult leaders, as to what was happening, and asked them if they would just keep an eye on Seth. I was really glad that that's where he got to be, because he's very active and very involved, and he was one of the youth leaders for that particular retreat. And so I knew that that would keep him preoccupied. And the only thing he asked me when we had the surgery done was he did not want to see me after surgery. And he's right after surgery anyway. And I said, okay, that's completely up to you. And it came out through a conversation that Michael had been on life support towards the end of his life, and he was afraid that I would look like his dad. And so we said, nope, you can come and see me when I look normal, and we'll leave it at that. So we proceeded. We got closer to the surgery, and I was grocery shopping one day in the supermarket, and I'd gotten a call from the doctor's office, and he said that they just wanted to go over the results of the biopsy and just to give them a call. And I thought, okay, great. Years ago it was that if anything was bad, they called you in and they would sit you down and they would have you, they would talk to you at the office, and, it was a big drawn out thing. So I thought, oh, well, this can't mean much of anything if they're calling me on the phone and they can just have a conversation with me. And so I went ahead and I called them back, and they said that the doctor was with somebody and that he would call me back. And so I continued shopping and loading up my shopping cart, and my phone rang. And while I was in the frozen food section of my local grocery store, I was told that I had cancer. They said that the biopsies came back and they were positive for malignancy. It was a neuroendocrine cancer. I should be lucky because it was a very slow-growing cancer, but that it was really good that I was having the surgery to take it out, but that it was positive for cancer. And I just kind of stood there. And I thought, well, first of all, when did our healthcare system come that you can just deliver that message over a phone instead of sitting down and talking with somebody one-on-one and explaining to them? And on my second thought was, no, I can't have cancer. I help women with cancer. I've devoted the last 14 years of my life to doing makeovers on women who have cancer. That's where my expertise lies. I'm not supposed to walk the same journey. I'm supposed to be their cheerleader from the sidelines. And all of a sudden, I'm no longer on the sidelines. I'm in the game. So I let that process. I didn't say anything to anybody. And that night, we had a family dinner night. And I was really quiet through dinner, didn't say much. And I think the pressure just built up on me. And through a conversation, I blurted it out, probably louder than I should. And I blurted out, I have cancer. And as my three sisters and my mom and my brother-in-laws just kind of stood there and looked at me, nobody knew what to say, because I'm the oldest of four girls, and I'm the leader, and I'm not the one that breaks down. I'm the one that's supportive. I'm the one, I don't lose my cool. I don't lose it. but it was so much and so overwhelming. I think I couldn't hold it in. So we went to the hospital and had the surgery. And I had decided that as I went in for my surgery, that this was my life and my surgery, and we were going to do it my way. So I had surgery in the afternoon, and I had made up my mind exactly how I wanted things to go. So I had to check into the hospital in the afternoon. They take you back to the pre-op area. I found out that I am not alone, and that I am very loved, because in a room where you're only supposed to have 2 people, we had, I think, close to 15. And these wonderful team members and family members that were there that made me laugh and made me forget about why I was the one laying in the hospital bed. We even took a selfie in the hospital bed. I'll post it in the show notes. But I was not alone. Any step of the way of this journey, I was not alone by any means. So the doctor comes in, the anesthesiologists come in, they all come in and they tell you their part and what they're going to do and how this is going to go. And the anesthesiologist comes in, and what I said to him was, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I want. When I am rolled down to the operating room, said, when I get into the operating room, I want to hear the song by Journey, Don't Stop Believin'. And I said, and I want the entire operating room, all the nurses, all the assistants, I want everybody singing Don't Stop Believing, and then you can put me under and put me to sleep. I said, but that's how I want it done. And he just kind of looked at me and he smiled and he said, okay, well, I've never had that request before. And the surgeon came in, and I told him the exact same thing. I said, this is what I want. I want to hear Don't Stop Believin'. I want to hear all the nurses and the staff singing, and then I'm happy to go under, and then you can start your procedure. Then you can start your surgery. So we get ready, and they're wheeling me down to the operating room, and my friend that works at the hospital, she had on Spotify, she had Don't Stop Believin', so we actually had the song Don't Stop Believin' playing all the way up into the operating room. And we get into the operating room, and the doctor's in there, and he had to do a procedure on me to kind of numb me at the waist. Before that, and he said to me, you just heard Don't Stop Believin'. He said, I'm not playing Don't Stop Believing right now. I'll play you another Journey song. So he's got Spotify all keyed up, and he plays a different Journey song, and he does this procedure, and then they lay me down, and he said, okay, now I'll play Don't Stop Believin'. So he started Don't Stop Believin'. I hear all the nurses and the staff in the operating room singing, and that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I know, I'm in recovery. It didn't bode well with the anesthetic, and I got sick, and I'm apologizing to everybody around me because I felt bad because I was sick. I was the one that was throwing up, and I didn't want them to have to take care of me. And then I was in the hospital for about 4 days, and I remember leaving the operating room. I remember getting up to my room, and I remember getting into bed. And the next 4 days were just kind of a blur. I don't remember much. I remember people coming in and out. I remember the doctor coming in and explaining to me that they had taken out 14 inches of my colon and 21 lymph nodes. And they had to test the lymph nodes, but they would later find out that 4 of the 21 lymph nodes were positive. That showed that there was some disease inside those lymph nodes as well. And other than that, I don't remember much of those 4 days that I was in the hospital. So when I was released from the hospital, I couldn't come home because we had a 2-story home, and so I needed to go someplace. So I stayed at my mom's, which I was grateful that my mom is as healthy as she is at her age, of the ripe age of 73. She's a very young 73 at the time, and she was very accommodating. She was very willing to take care of me, and again, my fear of being alone, I was not alone. So since then, my surgery has been fine. I've got a 3-inch scar on my tummy and about 3 other little scars. They were able to do the surgery laparoscopically. So I healed without any challenges at all. Having to go in and see the oncologist put a whole new set of beliefs, and I have a different perspective now when dealing with the women that we serve through Hello Gorgeous. Sitting in that room, being very nervous, not knowing what your test results are going to be. I went for a PET scan down in Indianapolis because my type of cancer is a very rare type of cancer, so they needed a special nuclear dye that would pick up the type of cancer that I had to see if there was anything left in my system. I'm happy to report that I didn't need any further treatment. It was just the surgery at that point in time, but I do see an oncologist every 3 months. And to this point, being 6 months out, I'm stable. And the oncologist said I may never need treatment, that it may be stable for the next 10 years. However, I've done things to make sure that I remain healthy and stay as healthy as possible. I've changed my diet and I'm exercising regularly and just really making sure that I can take control of this journey because it's my journey. And we were very close-lipped about this in the beginning. I guess I wasn't ready to expose my vulnerability. I didn't want people to question whether I was able to carry on with our organization and the work that we do. But I feel like now, hopefully, that when you saw me out, I didn't look any different, and people would have no idea that I had the surgery and the extent of surgery that I did, and that I just feel like it's time to share my story. However, here are a few tips that I want to offer to you before we leave. Number one, listen to your body. If you are having some abnormal symptoms, don't ignore them. If you're having symptoms now, stop ignoring them. Take a trip to the doctor. Are you having symptoms that you're ignoring? Make sure that you call the doctor. A simple trip to the doctor can help you avoid something. I wish that I would have gone earlier. I wonder about that. Had I gone earlier, would it have been something that would be better? And just let me clarify too. I don't have colon cancer. I have a neuroendocrine cancer that happened to grow on the colon, and that's way different. It's different than a colon cancer. And at my first trip to the oncologist, he said to me, you and I are in this for the long haul. So I know I'm going to be here for a long time. I want to make the best of it that I can. So, but I can't help but think that had I discovered it a little bit earlier, had it been better. So don't avoid any of those symptoms that you're having. Make sure that you have them checked out. Go to the doctor. If you're over 50 and if you have yet to have a colonoscopy, have a colonoscopy. If you think that some of those colon screening tests are for the birds, and actually my doctor even admitted that too, she would think that that was something that was worthless, that they put even elderly patients through. I can tell you right now, it's not a joke. And they do discover things that maybe you otherwise couldn't discover, and they can avoid something going further past the point of no return. So if you're having symptoms, I encourage you to check them out. Number two, follow your doctor's orders. Whatever the doctors tell you, go get the test, go get the blood work, but do what you can too. Make sure that there are ways that you can adapt your diet. You can do the exercise. You can live a healthier lifestyle. How much healthy stuff are you getting in nowadays? Take the supplements, talk to your doctor. Number three, speak up, be your own advocate. Ask the questions. Remember that your doctor works for you. I'm so grateful that I was able to tell them exactly what I wanted and that they listened to me. Number four, attitude is everything. Remember that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. You may not be able to control your situation or your circumstance, but you can control your thoughts around your situation, your circumstance. And number five, don't make it a big deal. Just like what I did with Seth. If you make it a big deal, it's a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you have a loved one that's battling cancer and can use some support, we've got a great offer right now. I created an online course called Restoring Your Beauty During Cancer. Right now, we're offering $20 off the course. If you use the coupon code POST-COVID20 off coupon, at the Thinkific, if you go to our website, you can actually find the online course there. The course is $27 as opposed to $47. So we'd love for you to share that with your loved ones battling cancer. We'd like you to check out the free resources on our website, which is www.hellogorgeous.org. If any questions, please contact me at kbecker@hellogorgeous.org. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and download our mobile app. Thank you for joining me today and allowing me to share my story with you on Hello Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. I'm your host, Kim Becker. And until next time, stay gorgeous.
Another beautiful day walking in the sunshine, spending the time with you. Last night we had a good time, dancing in the moonlight and loving the night away. I can't imagine what it'd be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like without you. I can't imagine that.